All right, guys. The Four Agreements book, ending the third agreement of Don't Make Assumptions, pages 71, 72, 73, 74. The next recording will be about chapter 5, which is the fourth agreement, which is always do your best. So this chapter 4 ends with a conversation about good communication, clear communication. So topics like asking for what you want, people having the ability to decline, and this type of communication can kind of help with not making assumptions because there's a lot more clarity in the communication of things. I like the part on page 72 in the middle. Also find your voice to ask for what you want. Everybody has the right to tell you yes or no, but you always have the right to ask. And then it's kind of like vice versa. Like you have the right, everybody also has the right to ask you questions about, clarifying what's going on, and you also have the right to say yes or no. And so I kind of liked this chapter about not making assumptions. I don't know if I really thought about it as far as like communication skills. Like I'm pretty big on communication skills, good communication and stuff like that, but I really like it because I do feel like it is easy to fall into a trap of not really knowing what somebody means or why somebody used a certain tone. I mean, like, of course, like, it probably doesn't help to be like too overly anxious and like, oh, did I do something wrong? Like, I used to have a friend that I grew up with that was like, I don't know, like, I don't know where it came from, but it seemed to be some form of anxiety, but, I let it go because it was like, it was, innocent. Like, it was like they were checking in, but they would check in a lot, and like we were kids, like we were like really young. And, like, say if you're walking next to your friend, right, and you kind of bump shoulders a little bit, or, like, they would be like, oh, like, I'm so sorry, like, I'm sorry if I bumped you, or, like, I'm sorry if I accidentally, stepped on your foot, or, like, I'm sorry if I, like, they would just be, like, profusely apologizing about things that I was kind of like, why is this person apologizing about like every single thing like this? It got to a point, like I was young, like, elementary school or something, but like it got to a point where I was just like, man, this person's like every single time like we talk, it's like 4 or 5 times, during recess or lunchtime or whatever, where they're asking me like all these questions, like, like, sorry if I, sorry, did I do anything to like hurt you or upset you? Like, I wasn't like seeming mad or anything, but it was like they were just so worried that like they were gonna do something wrong. And I don't know, like I'm loyal to my friends. Like, I'm not easy to just be like, oh, like you're not gonna be my friend because I accidentally tripped over the back of your shoe or something and now I'm mad. Like, I knew that they had no bad intentions. Like, this was a very gentle, kind person, and it was hard to like play and like have fun because like they were always apologizing because they were so worried. And once they started kind of interacting with other people, because I think they didn't really interact with a lot of people, once they started interacting with other students, the other students were like, why do you apologize so much? Because they would always just be like, sorry. And it's like, wow, like, you don't really need to apologize. Like, it was stuff that like no one else would apologize about, it's like, it was like overly doing it. And I kind of felt bad because I was like, well, I don't want them to think that I'm not going to be their friend, but it's like, at the same time, I'm like, dude, like, this is a little bit much. Like, it was a little excessive, but, I could tell it came from a place of caring, which is why I was like, okay, well, but I don't remember how it stopped. Like, I think I might have actually told them that like everything's fine, like, but they would always go through like this whole list of things. I can't remember exactly, but there would be 4 or 5 things like, did I accidentally hit you? Did I accidentally do this? Or like, I'm like, you didn't hit me. Like, what is going on? Like, like we would be like reading books or something, and then all of a sudden they'd be like apologizing about stuff, and I'm like, I don't even know what's happening, But I just got so used to it. Eventually it stopped, but I mean, to me that was like a little bit much. It's like, you don't have to apologize that much usually, especially if you're not intentionally doing anything. Like, if you accidentally like bump someone, yeah, say sorry, but it's like, if you're like playing sports and you're playing catch and you throw the ball and they miss it, you don't have to apologize. It's like maybe if you accidentally like run them over and tackle them in football or something, that and they seem like like they got the wind knocked out or like something, where it's like there are ways to like maybe apologize, if there's some insensitivity or something like that, but it's like some things it's like there's no need to really keep on apologizing, and especially if it's like not an intentional thing, and it's just like something that just happens in the process of just hanging out. But yeah, I was never really too clear why that was going on when I was a kid. Like, I kind of get it more now, but I was like, man, that's a lot, like, because I would get annoyed. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, it's fine, like, just stop, um but yeah, like, I think when it comes to communication with people, it's like, it doesn't have to be like that much with like assumptions of like asking so many questions, out of like anxiety or whatever. Like, I've known other people who ask so many questions because they're like so anxious that they want the attention kind of like off of them, and so they just ask and ask and ask, and it's kind of like, man, like, that style of communication can be a little bit rough too. And sometimes it's like I'd have to ask, like, okay, like, is there a reason why you're asking me these things so much, because it's a little bit much, like, why are you asking me so much stuff? But yeah, I was never, I haven't had that many experiences where it's been like an issue or anything, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just one of those things that's just like, all right, like, sometimes things come up, but yeah, I think it is easy to assume sometimes that someone's mad or somebody's has bad intentions. Like, one thing I've noticed for sure is that, like, if somebody doesn't have their mental health in order, they might react in certain ways to certain stuff, either anxiously or or there's nothing wrong with having like, sorry, drinking water, with having like anxiety or depression or PTSD or anything. Like, there's nothing really, like, of course I don't wish that on anybody, but it's like sometimes people just have issues that aren't like fully, able for them to like avoid, and sometimes it's not severe enough that it's like getting in everybody's way, but it might be slightly annoying. And I think sometimes when it's something like that, where it's like, for me, if I can see or know that somebody's kind of working on themselves, I can be a little bit more patient, versus if it's like somebody that just seems like they're not really ready to kind of like do anything for themselves or whatever it may be, and they're kind of doing a bunch of stuff because of their mood that they're just like getting in my way. Like, if they're rude or mean, or like the roommates I had before that had the one that had the issues that I mentioned like 100 billion times, or things like that, where it's like, okay, like, whatever you got going on, you're not getting it taken care of or trying to get it taken care of, and so I don't really want to put up with that, like, it's a little different. But like, yeah, I've had people in my life that have been like very rude or very insensitive people, like bordering abuse, or even people who were abusive. And I know it's because they had, problems. And, you know, I, I feel for them, but it's like, dude, you can't just be getting in my way just because you have issues. I shouldn't have to put up with it. I shouldn't like have to be forced to put up with it. But yeah, like uh I'm glad that this chapter talked about they kind of bring in the communication skills and talk about how that kind of is a factor. So with that, keeping it short, thanks for listening.